Hello and welcome to the Columbia Daily Tribune's Courtside View basketball webcast. This is Tribune sports editor Joe Wall-Jesper along with Tribune basketball beat writer Steve Valentik. Steve, Missouri is back from the Bahamas. They go 2-1 in the battle for Atlantis, beating Stanford, losing to Louisville, and then beating VCU to finish third. So I guess, first of all, just your thoughts on their play on the court in those games. Did you come back from the Bahamas thinking more or less about the Missouri basketball team?
Maybe about the same. I mean, I think you saw some signs that they're clearly not where they want to be, whether it's Ernest Ross shooting 3 for 19 against Stanford, them turning the ball over 23 times against Louisville, or letting the Cardinals, who had not been playing well offensively at all, shoot, I think, around 66% in the second half of a blowout loss. But there were a lot of good things, too, I think you saw. I think Missouri seems like they're going to, for the first time in nearly a decade, be a really good rebounding team. They have now out-rebounded each of their first 6 opponents and did so against some better competition down in the Bahamas. I think you saw some guys improve from the Stanford game to the VCU game, with Keon Bell certainly playing a lot better in his first game coming off the bench. I thought Negus Webster-Chan settled down against the press against VCU compared to what he did against Louisville. Tony Criswell gave them some really good minutes against the Rams. Not necessarily scoring the ball, but he had 7 rebounds in that game. Took a huge charge late and also dove on the floor to keep a loose ball alive and keep possession with Missouri. And at that point, a 1-point game in the last minute. Things like that are obviously positive for Frank Haith. I think maybe guys are starting to figure out their roles a little bit more, but they're still not where they want to be.
The one thing that I think was most noticeable was, particularly against Louisville, when Phil Pressey's on the floor, it's like they're just grinding their gears offensively, and to the point where he's on the bench for about 30 seconds, and you're thinking he's got to get Phil Pressey back in the game. And obviously that ties in with the lack of Michael Dixon. Just how do you think they resolve the playing without Dixon for as long as he's out? Who does handle the ball, or who's best at it?
Well, I think Negus Webster-Chan is their best second option, but there's a big difference between him and Michael Dixon. Not only because he's a true freshman, but he's also not a natural point guard. I think he's played that position in the past, but he's 6'7". He's a versatile guy. They think he can do that. But I think he probably is really just as adept at being a 2-guard or even a small forward. He looked really lost against Louisville. The brief moments he had a chance to face the pressure in the first half of that game, and the Cardinals really responded and went on a run of steals, I think 3 times in 4 possessions, and got some transition opportunities. And obviously Frank had to put Phil Pressey back in the game with 2 fouls and run that risk, because there is no other option. I think you saw him kind of reaffirm his thinking of that fact the next day against VCU, when Phil played on the stat sheet 40 minutes. It was really, he came out a couple of times, but it was over 39 minutes in that game, and it's because his value is really just inarguable at this point. They have to have him on the floor.
Yeah, well, they got a series of games here before they have some more competitive games against UCLA and Illinois, and I guess I would think that this would be a good time to play Pressey maybe about as little as you can get by with, to A, let him not overwork him, and B, try to figure out who can do that job during the minutes he's going to have to be on the bench, because if Dixon doesn't come back, he's a guy that you're going to have to play probably 38 minutes a game in a competitive game to have much chance of winning.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. I think you'd like to think, if you're Missouri, that Negus is going to continue to develop and get better at that role. You'd like to think that Keon Bell would be able to spell some minutes there too. But he is a guy who just hasn't looked comfortable running any sort of offense. He's pounded the ball a lot on the court and gone after his shot a lot, but the ball doesn't seem to move the way that it needs to when he's out there in charge, the couple of times that's happened. And so I think Negus is the most likely guy. He's shown to be kind of a willing passer, and you'd like to think with his talent level and his ball handling skills, he could grow into that role a little bit. And you're right. These games, the next 3 weeks are really the time to do that and see if he's able to handle that job.
Okay, well, join us again next week and we'll discuss Missouri's game against Appalachian State.